Record.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the week two rankings of season 19. Um, what a crazy week we have had. There's so much to dive into. The entire game has been flipped on its head. Um, this was me role playing as if I was living with Brady on opposite planet. Nothing
This
has
is if
happened.
if I was role playing as if the house voted for Vic Emma in week one.
Yeah, and there were still exciting things going on. This week is about what we expected for this week, where someone won HOH, they put up the same people, and Emma went home. And that's kind of that. In terms of like the actual gameplay that has happened. With that said, you can like everyone has really talked about the fact that like once Emma goes, then they'll really start to see where people's loyalties lie. So I think a lot of people this week have almost treated this week as like week one in terms of like, okay, like let's set ourselves up while we can so that when the actual game starts next week, we'll be sat and ready. Is the actual game going to start next week? I don't really think so. I think we're going to have a rather predictable pre-jury phase. I'll be curious to see like how the season goes. But
Mhm.
that's what people have started to do. So we have many more alliances, many more groups, and I think a very clear house hierarchy top to bottom. Like my rankings are very easy because it is pretty easy
Mhm.
to see who's in control, who's doing fine, who's on the out, and who's going home next, in my opinion. It's kind of cut and dry.
Yeah, how excited for my draft. Uh,
Um, should we
yeah.
take a look at the draft page?
Oh, sorry, I didn't. I was paused.
No, that's
Um,
okay.
I was there, but I was paused.
Oh,
And I'm not loving it right now.
um,
Still, of course,
yeah.
got some winners, I think, but
The yeah,
overall, I'm not loving it.
I would agree with that sentiment for Team Steven. I'm looking at your like, yeah. I mean, obviously we've lost Emma here, which is another member for you.
I
If I
think
had,
Ryan, I think Ryan is a strong chance. I think Justin has a strong chance.
they're the two, in my opinion, right
I
now
think
that we.
Zoe could be an underdog.
Like. Granted, it's week two.
I,
Zoe's
I'm
not
not
one
feel
I'm currently envisioning the win for.
I'm not feeling confident about my last three. The Vince pick over Kayla was a huge blunder.
Um, yeah, yeah. I see it for Justin and Ryan. In terms of my side, I could see it for Kellen. I could see it for Bryce. I could kind of see it for Jen or Kayla. I think they're definitely a tier below. Andrew also not out of it, but I'm not.
I
Rachel
don't
and
know if
Isaiah.
I don't know if I can see it for Rachel. I don't know if I see it for Isaiah.
Um,
Um, I also like don't know if I see it for Bryce. I think Bryce is gonna be cooked eventually.
we'll see. We'll talk
We
about
also
all
said the
of
same exact thing about Kaden. Like actually at the same
yeah.
exact time.
Uh-huh. Like we'll dive
There were
into it.
no other
I'm
options.
not based off of
So
this
upsetting.
cast. I don't think it's necessarily going to be over for Bryce, but we'll all stuff to talk about. Um, are we ready to dive into some scores?
Yeah, let's do it.
Um, do we want to make a graph slide?
I'm doing it as you're talking.
Oh, that's so exciting.
I'm
Yes,
trying to
the
get the
graph
scores
has
from last week.
returned.
Oh, we have the scores from last week here. That's so exciting. You can go and start first, Scott.
I can start.
Yeah, talking about Adrian.
Oh, cool. Are you able to go to the ranking slide? I know you're
I'm on it.
paused.
Aren't I not on the side?
You are on the draft slide. Oh, there we go.
Oh,
Um,
that's weird. It was showing me that I was on the ranking stuff.
Alrighty. So yeah, let's get into it with Adrian. Last week I was at a 4 for Adrian, and you were at a 5 for Adrian. Um, I'm definitely sitting in that range again. Like a 4.5 average kind of feels right for me, and it still does feel right for me. However, obviously, like we don't get to pick what the average is, we pick what our score is. And last week I was at a 4, and I think based off of where I have some other people moving, Um, I am gonna move Adrian up to a 5 for this week. Um, I think he actually let me double check because I haven't even really kept tabs. Is he in any of these groups that have formed?
I don't believe so.
So, like I said, I'm gonna keep Adrian at my
I was
4.
gonna say I think I'm gonna stay at my 4, but I want to make
Well,
sure.
no, no, no. You were at a 5.
I mean, sorry, I'm also gonna go to a 4 as well, but I was gonna go down to a 4. But give
Um,
me 1 second.
yeah, because he's not in the
Oh no,
fraud.
he's in Crash.
That is him. Okay. I'm gonna go up to a 5. That's what I thought had happened. Um, and I'm gonna be at a 5, and it is just because of that group, just being in something and having like a base place to go off of in the game, I think is good for him. And I think will provide him a little bit of safety moving forward as we kind of cut out some of these bottom players. Um, However, right now I don't see this trajectory taking him much past like the final week of the pre-jury or first juror type of vibes. And he's not really actively pushing any thoughts or opinions. So I don't see myself going higher than a 5. This is right now where I'm kind of like peaking for Adrian. Um, but the fact that he is in a group does make me think that he is in a slightly better spot now. And no one is actively talking about like targeting or putting him up. I think that is to come. So for that reason, I am going to go up to a 5. I don't think he misstepped this week. Granted, there really was nothing to misstep. Um, so yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
I think yeah. Again, now that I'm realizing he's in this group, I think I'm also gonna be at a 5. But when was this group made? Is it made?
That honestly, I don't.
Oh, it was made before the eviction. Okay, so
Yeah, okay.
um, I'm gonna be at a 5 as well. I think he's in a pretty good like average spot right now. I don't think he's like controlling anything, but he's connected and in the this predictable pre-jury that we're talking about, where we have probably like a list of people who are can be pretty predictably in the pre-jury. I don't think he's one of them, so I'm staying out of 5 for him this week.
And just so you know, we can see the spreadsheet.
Oh, sorry, I forgot. Oh no, it's a spreadsheet of everybody's numbers. Ah, it's okay. I'll move that though. Okay, cool.
All right. Next up is Andrew. Andrew had a 5 from both of us last week. This week did land on the block, but won himself the veto and came off of the block. Um, on the whole, like for me, this normally if like you land on the block, I am inclined to like deduct points. However, this week everyone was like kind of openly talking about like it doesn't really matter who's on the block. Like this is just the week for Emma to go, and everyone really stuck to that. So he never was in any kind of danger. Um, and if anything, I think the fact that he went up and then came down almost like weirdly like resolved any thoughts that people had about him not sharing battle pass info last week. Like I think people view him as like less of a threat of like, oh, he went up. And I do think he does have a really good solid base with Jen and Kayla specifically. And that is really great for him. And I think that uh Bryce and Vince both really like him. So like he does have some really good base allies. I really need him to lock in with Jen and Kayla and like specifically only Jen and Kayla, not Jen, Kayla, and Bryce. Um, but all to say, definitely nothing too bad. I'm not going to raise my score as he did go up on the block this week. I feel like that feels a little counterintuitive. Um, but I certainly feel no reason to lower my score. And I think that he is operating from a pretty solid position in the game and does have a good head on his shoulders. So for me, it's going to be a 5 again. And I hope to see it go up for Andrew. I think he's doing a good job, but it will be a 5 again for me this week.
I was gonna say I usually do go down when people are nominated, but I don't think he's coming out of a week A with any like that there's any chance of him going home, but also B, like people. I don't think there are people going like, oh, Andrew's been on the block. Let's just like throw him back up there. Which I think is the worry when you have three nominees and all the nominees are just like going home and we need new nominees and we just need a place filler. So I'm going to stay at my five for Andrew as well. I think he has the potential to go up, and I'm interested to see if he shall. Let's talk about Bryson. I'm going to grab coffee super quickly.
I love it. Um, Talking about Bryce, I think that Bryce is gonna be like the one to watch this season. Um, it is very impressive how you can see Steven in the back ordering. Hi, Steven. I wonder what he's getting. Oh, he looked back at the camera. Um,
I can still hear you.
oh, that's so funny. Yeah. Um, the I think Bryce is definitely going to be the one to watch out for in the sense that now he was no longer HOH. And I was very curious to see how his game would evolve post being the one in power. And it has only resulted in him being brought into more and more groups. Jen and Kayla have, I think, mistakenly brought him into their group. I think Vince is trying to form his group with Bryce. And now Bryce has a like solidified alliance with running down this list. Andrew, Jen, Justin, Kayla, Kellen, Ryan, Vince, Zoe. That's 8 out of the other 13 players. And I think those other 5 people are like the 5 people that will be exiting the game next in terms of the Tristas, the Isaiahs, the Helenes, the Rachels of the world. Um, and the only person that has kind of talked about like Bryce is going to be tough to get out and is a strong player is Kellen. And she's only really voiced that to Ryan, which for right now I do think is good. Like I do not think that she should be voicing that publicly, especially when there is she shouldn't be voicing that until it's time to take out Bryce. And right now, there's like literally no way to, in my opinion. Um, so it definitely has to be the long game, but like someone's gonna have to start walking that tricky balance of like someone's gonna have to do something in order to take him out because he's so well insulated right now. Um, I was considering moving my score all the way up to an 8 because he is literally the person that is tied to the most amount of people. I'm only going to go up to a 7 just because like this kind of was a nothing burger of a week and we didn't really have to see any moving or shaking of like these alliances. Like everyone just got to like make them and then we kind of like sat and waited for Emma to go home. So I think this next week, once like moves start to be made and we actually have to like see how Bryce plays the dynamic of all these different groups, will
Mhm.
solidify where I go. But I'm certainly raising my score and I'm going to be at a 7 for Bryce.
I think I'm going to disagree with you a little bit. I think that maybe I am biased because I hear more from Kellen and Ryan, and they are the ones voicing it. But I feel like he's starting to get shaky a little bit, and I think I am a little soured on a poor game decision he made this week with the battle pass. I think that I don't think that he should have kept that from his alliance. And people, they were like, "Why wouldn't he tell us we're in an alliance with?" And waiting to like reveal that after the veto when like everybody knew when the battle pass came out and that it came out before the veto, and then like trying to come up with this like plan to like make a flashy move, which really was Justin's plan. He went to Rachel and Isaiah with first, which we'll talk about. Um, but then that kind of soured people when Zoe volunteered because it was like, well, if Bryce has the battle pass, why isn't Bryce just volunteering to go on the block? I actually was considering going down to a 5. I think that was a really poor move. And again, I think you're right. I think it is mainly just Kellen and Ryan talking about being wary of Bryce. And I hear Kellen and Ryan's voice a lot as I with them. I think I'm definitely willing to bounce back up, seeing how the next week goes. I understand he's connected, which is why I'm like, is it worth going down on? But I think we just like, I think coming off a week one where we were like uncertain about how people would feel about him, and now we're in a week two where he like, I understand it wasn't like his intention to get the battle pass, so like that's why I'm also taking that into consideration as well. Where like he didn't really want it, he kind of just like found it and submitted it and didn't realize he was first. And he knew he made a mistake, but I think he played it was just like a really poor play, I feel like. So I think I'm gonna go down to a five. I think just for this week, um, based on the events of this week, yeah, I feel comfortable with that.
Alrighty. One of the few times where Steven and I are over a
Yeah.
point away from each other, always exciting. So that does bring Bryce's average still at a six. And we will see. Yeah, we'll see where it goes. I definitely don't disagree with what you're saying. I do think it certainly was a poor play. If anything, we did have a lot of people immediately in their diary room. Like Vince, and granted, Vince is in no position of power, but like as soon as Bryce played it, like Vince was like, question, are you allowed to tell people about the battle pass? And we were like, yeah. And Vince is like,
Oh,
interesting.
it was Vince. It was Vince who was
If
like,
you're
yeah,
my number one
yeah,
and I didn't hear about this from you at all, it's kind of weird, isn't it?
because he
Um,
only told the alliance, and then he made everyone else figure out at the eviction. Was that what happened?
no, so it was like so he has this alliance with Andrew, Jen, and Kayla.
Hmm.
And it was in this alliance that he texted, like, oh my gosh, the battle pass is there as the cover of the group chat. Like, too bad I didn't get it because it's been sitting there for 30 minutes. And he didn't have it when he said that. And everyone was like, what? No. And then Bryce texts his diary and he's like, the battle pass is there. And we were like, congratulations, Bryce, you got it. And he was like, oh, uh, what he should have done is then gone back to that alliance and be like, oh my God, guys, I just texted in and I got it.
Yeah,
Whoa. He didn't do that though. Instead, he went to Justin and said, I got it, which like, yay, also good. Um,
and Justin was like, "Don't tell anybody."
yeah.
Which like I would have been like, "No, I'm gonna tell people." Like, why does it matter?
Uh, um,
Emma is going home.
yeah. Yeah, of all the weeks. So and then it was the weird things of like Bryce later went to Andrew, Jen, and Kayla and was like, oh, by the way, I do have it. And it was like, what? I thought you said you didn't have it, first of all. And that was when Andrew was still on the block. Um, and then secondly, he went to the big alliance of five, the Justin, Bryce, Kellen, Zoe, Ryan. And after they had already come up with this whole plan, like Bryce and Justin came into the plan and was like, okay, guys, guess what? New info. I have the battle pass. Random idea. What if we do XYZ? And it was very clearly like, oh, so you had already like talked and thought about
Yeah,
this. Ryan and Kellen, I think very smartly were like, no way in hell am I going up on the block. I know it's Emma,
yeah.
but like, I'm not doing this for you. Zoe, I think a little more excited to like get one over on people was like, I'll do it. Which like that checks out for how people have been playing the game so far. Um, and so that's fine. So yeah, I definitely do agree misplay. However, I do think still Kellen and Ryan are the only two people that are talking about this. And the slower it takes them to spread it around, the easier it is going to be for Bryce to lock in with people. Like
Mhm.
right now, I think that Kayla, Jen, Andrew, to an extent, Vince, we'll see where he falls after this battle pass misplay. But like there are too many other people outside of this alliance that I think do really lock in with Bryce that Kellen and Ryan now have a trickier field to play with, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
let's keep moving here. I'm going with a one for Emma.
Um, Same. There's not much else to say other than I think this is the first person to not be a first boot, but have a one average for the season. Um, so that's a fun fact. Congratulations, Emma, on that.
All
And I think
right. Oh,
that this might, in my opinion, and Stephen, correct me if I'm wrong, outdo Rocky Roby for worst performance in BBSS ever. Like we've had some bad
What does that
performances.
mean? Oh,
Like we've had Ari, we've had Emma Garcia from 12, we've
I mean,
had Julian
it's harder to do worse than this.
than this.
It's just not show up after day one, not show up at
Not
all.
even after day one,
Not
after hour three.
yeah.
Like,
So
so yeah,
okay,
great.
Aline.
Helene has my whole heart. I adore Helene, but Helene, as of right now, is not going to be long for this game. Um, it is the unfortunate thing of she's still getting blamed for the potential Muhammad flip. Um, I think a lot of other people that were on board for it were able to jump ship, which ultimately I don't think is a good move in the moment, but obviously is like protecting them now and has put Helene in the line of fire. And Helene doesn't have really anyone aside from Isaiah. Was like the only person that I would say she has. And I think in this game where we're seeing all these groups form,
Hmm.
and there isn't one particular group that is running the game per se. It's just kind of one giant conglomerate of people that are like all subconsciously looking out for each other, and then a few people that are not in any of the groups that are becoming the easy boots. Helene is going to be that moving forward. And I think her name is coming up on the list. And for all of that, all of those reasons, and knowing where I'm going to be placing other people, I am going to have to move my score down to a 3 for Helene. I just think that her turn
Hmm.
is coming very, very shortly. And it makes me sad because I adore Helene, but it will be a 3 from me.
I know I'm gonna have to move down to a three as well. I mean, she just has no like traction in the game. Like she is gonna probably starting next week be thrown on the block for however long it takes for her to go home, unless something crazy happens with the competition. But I do really like her, and I like the way she's playing. She just needs to talk a little bit more, and she hasn't really gotten into those alliances yet. And I think that that's the problem, is that she hasn't made the connections early enough to really ingrain herself in the house, and it's going to be hard now to like really come back from that. But I really hope it does. It only takes like one person winning a competition to change the trajectory of the season. But I'm gonna have to go for now for a three for Hellring as well.
Yeah.
Isaiah.
Isaiah, another person that I'm getting nervous for. I think, ostracized himself a bit with how vocal he was about keeping Muhammad. Um, And even though I think people agreed with him, like people have outwardly been like, oh, yeah, no, like I agree with what Isaiah is saying and I respect the move, but too bad what he did ostracize himself. And now he's going to be up on the list soon. He's another one. He's not in any of these groups that have formed. He is certainly on the outs. And while I don't think people have necessarily talked about like targeting Isaiah, because I do think people like Isaiah and they view him as someone that's here and playing. I think if things don't shake up soon, that his name will be on the docket. And I do think that even if things don't shake up, like I do think we're going to be in store for another, honestly, 2 to 3 weeks of like the person on the bottom getting the chop. And then I think that one of two things will happen. One, in that third week, the person on the bottom will get the chop, which I do think at that point will be Isaiah. Or two, people will try and quote shake up the game. But I see a world where them shaking up the game is still taking out Isaiah, who they view as someone that is like threatening and like a power player. So all to say, like I sadly right now don't feel great about Isaiah's chances. One thing about Isaiah though is he is not afraid to make a move and knows how to. Some of these people are definitely very new and I think like wouldn't know how to advocate for themselves and make a move. And I think that Isaiah does know how to do that. And he is sensing that like, wow, I'm on the outs a little bit. Like I do think he like knows it a little bit, not to the full extent. Um, so I definitely view him as in a worse position than I do people like Adrian and Andrew, who I do have at fives. Um, So I am going to be lowering my score to a 4, but it is only going to be a 4 because I do think he still has that wiggle room, and the ability to make some moves. Um, so yeah, it's gonna be a 4 for me for Isaiah. Before I move on, the big telltale sign for me, and what should have been for Isaiah, I think, is the fact that Justin, someone who should be one of his closer allies in the game, came to him and Rachel first to be like, "Can I put one of you up?" Absolutely no go. So yeah, it's a 4 for me for Isaiah.
I don't necessarily think, I mean, I'm going to go with a four as well, but I don't necessarily think that was bad. Um, Especially the way the conversation went. It was more of like a, yeah, I had this idea. Like, it's, I want to leave it up to you. Like, I'm not gonna like put you up if you don't want to go up. Like, I'm gonna let you make the decision. Like, I think this would be a smart move to have one of us go up and have the battle pass. And ultimately, they were like, no, we don't really want to. And he was like, okay, that's fine. I'll go with Vince. And then Zoe ended up volunteering in the other lines. But you get a four as well. I think he could be in trouble too. Ditto everything you said if he doesn't turn some things around. So we'll see. Cool.
Moving on to Jen. Um, Last week I was at a 5 for Jen. You were at a 6. Um, I am very excited to see what the trajectory for Jen and Kayla are. I think this whole season we will be talking about them as Jen and Kayla. I don't ever foresee that
Mhm.
changing. And I personally don't mind that. I think it's good for the two of them. And I think it puts them in a position to be able to like make a power play if they want to. Um, the big thing that I'm waiting to see is like, will they make a power play if they want to? Obviously, right now there's not a lot to go off of because this was just the Emma week. But the kind of the vibes that I get from the two of them as players are like play it safe, make it far, not let me make the move to win the game is kind of just like the vibe that I feel like they've set for themselves. So I'll be curious to see what happens. All to say for this week, um, Jen put in a lot of good work with a lot of people and has now ended up in multiple groups. One of which was kind of at her lead with Andrew and Kayla, which they also brought Bryce into. Um,
Mhm.
and then they also have this group with um, Kayla, Ryan, Zoe, and Adrian, which I do think is good for them. I think Zoe is not super loyal to it, but I think the other people would be. I think Ryan specifically really likes Kayla and Chen. Adrian doesn't have anyone else. Um, and I'm thinking that Ryan could probably keep Zoe at bay from like saying anything about it at the very least. Um, so that is all great for them. Um, so I'm moving up to a 6 for Jen is where I'm at.
Yeah, and
I was at 5 up to a
I'm gonna
6.
stay at my six. I think Jen's doing a really great job. I think she's being really social. I think she's aligning with the right people. She's got Kayla kind of finding out the other information, which is great. Um, so I'm gonna be a six or Jen. Sorry, one on the
Come
page.
on, Cole.
Sorry, I don't know what I'm doing. Please, sir. Please work. Hey, Jen moving up in the world. Okay, Justin.
Justin. Oh, now I'm. Oh, wait. This is what in the world? Um. Okay, Justin. I was about to say something and I was about to contradict myself. Because I have now, like, I'm still, for context, I have been very busy over the last 2 days. And although not a lot of stuff has happened in the game in terms of like Emma went home and that was that, there definitely are all of these new groups that have formed. And I'm still keeping up on who's aligned with who and in what. For me, spoiler alert, I'm going to be staying at my 6 for Justin. Um, I think he played this HOH week very safe, which I think was the right move, taking out Emma. And just like doing that smoothly, painlessly, easily, putting up Trista, who I think is someone that's proven not to get like mad at going up on the block and already was up there. Um, and then put up Andrew first, which I think wasn't like perfect, but Andrew I don't see as someone that's really going to retaliate. And then didn't get any blood on his hands by putting up Zoe. So like all of that was great. The thing that I wish I saw from Justin a little more was like I love to see an HOH that is able to, on a safe week, use that power to solidify more bonds and not just like let it go to waste. And I do think that Justin let this go to waste like a little bit. Um, just in terms of like there were all these groups that formed, and Justin was not in any of them. And still Bryce that was reaping the benefits of his HOH that was able to slip in here. And Justin is still really only left with that main group of five between Bryce, Kellen, um, Ryan, and Zoe. The thing I was going to contradict myself with was I now see this group that is Justin, Bryce, Vince, Kayla, Rachel. Talk about like a Brant Steele randomization of a group. Um,
I did not. Oh, I didn't hear what you're saying.
um,
Okay,
it kind of feels like we hit
who was
the
it?
random generator on this. It's so this is the group that Vince was looking to form. Then I think Bryce and Justin are both like, yeah, Vince, we'll form this group with you to like keep you appeased that like you're doing well in the game. And it's with the three of them, Rachel and Kayla, who are two people that like Vince has decided to bring in. And if anything, Bryce and Justin were both like, we don't really talk to Rachel. So like sure if you want to, but like I'm not feeling the best about it. And Vince was like, nope, Rachel's in the group. So yeah. All to say, I'm staying at my six. I don't think that he is in any inherent danger. Um, and I think that that group of five between, I've been listing off these names over and over again, it feels like, but between Justin, Bryce, Kellen, Ryan, and Zoe, like, is the power players of the game and are the people that have the most control. And therefore, for me, like ranking any of them below a six right now kind of feels like they're controlling it and no one's coming after them. So I don't know why I wouldn't. So that's where I'm at.
I'm gonna get a six for Justin too. I think he had a good HOH week. I think it was like a pretty gimme HOH to just get out Emma. I think that was a good play to like try and go for the HOH because I think everyone understood that there were no hard feelings to speak. And I think he definitely did kind of solidify himself a little bit more. I think he's in a good spot right now. I think eyes are more on Bryce for the battle pass, even though Justin was like directly involved in it. So maybe a six.
All right, moving on to Kayla. It's kind of rather unfortunate that like Jen and Kayla aren't right next to each other alphabetically because I wish I could like talk about them as like a collective player.
Well, we always
Um,
can.
because I will be raising my score for Kayla up to a six as well. When looking at Kayla and Jen, I think that Jen is the player that has the better strategic chops, obviously knows the game a bit more, and it's kind of leading Kayla's moves and direction in the game, is at least the sense that I get. However, this week, I didn't agree. I wouldn't have said this in week one, but now coming into week two, I would say it. I think Kayla is the player that is actually socially trusted more and doing better. I think Kayla's individual bonds are kind of the best in the game. Obviously, she's got the bond with Jen. She's got a super close bond with Andrew, a super close bond with Ryan. Um, I think she's been able to use her mutual connections rather well. And I think that like Justin really likes her, Rachel really likes her, Isaiah really likes her through the Julia Moss effect of it all. Um, there's she's got a good connection with Bryce as well. Vince obviously likes her. Like she's socially, I think is probably doing maybe like the best in the game. Um, and I just hope that we see, oh, I want to see a little more agency from Kayla before I um really raise my score further. But I'll just say I'm very, very thrilled with how Kayla is doing in the game.
I'm going to go up to a six as well. I think Kayla's doing a great job. I think I'm kind of lumping just her in with Jen right now. But I think that they both deserve an equal score this week. And those are my thoughts. And I'm hoping they're having a great day at work today. Okay. Kellen,
Kellen. Last week I was like almost up to the seven. I landed at a six. Stephen was at a seven. Um, and for me this week, I will be staying at my six, and this time it is just kind of like a confident resting six. Um, and for me, that is for a couple of reasons. Kellen is still probably one of the players that I'm most impressed with strategically, which is awesome. Like, love that for Kellen. But I think socially, kind of what I like, it's what held me back from the seven last week. Of like, the people that love Kellen, but there's a good amount of people in the game that I think don't talk to Kellen all that much. And when we saw all of these groups form this week, Kellen's name didn't really come up at all as someone to bring into them,
Mhm.
which I think was telling for me that like where my gut was at last week of like, I think she's not as socially insulated as it may seem like she is. And I think that is true. I do think that Bryce and Justin being in her corner is huge for her. And that's why I'm certainly not any lower than a six. I think that this power group of five is great. And again, I do think that she is the one that is most actively thinking about like where her game will go beyond this group, which I think is great. Um, but right now it is just thinking where that is going to be and not in practice. Luckily, she has Ryan right by her side, who is someone that is very socially connected to all these different groups. So I think that when the time comes, there will not be an issue so long as Ryan is still in the game. Um, but yeah, I'm certainly not. I wasn't questioning going up to a seven this week. This is just like a solid six for
Mhm.
me.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to go down from a seven to a six. Um, and not because she's doing any worse than she did in week one. I think in week one, well, that's not true. I think in week one, she just had a really strong start for the game. And not that she's in any worse position right now, but I think that she just had such a strong start last week and now she's kind of cruising a little bit, which is fine. But I think she's more at a six level of gameplay for me this week. So six for Kellen for me. He all roads lead to six.
Right? Not anymore.
Rachel.
um, Rachel, I adore Rachel. I love Rachel Lefko. Um, However, she's in a tricky spot in the game, and now that I see that this group of Vince, Kayla, Rachel, Justin, Bryce has formed, maybe I feel a little differently. But ultimately, I don't see this group as being like real. No shade to this group. It kind of feels like Justin and Bryce are in it to appease Vince. Kayla has other stronger things going on. Um, and I don't even know, I haven't heard from Rachel like how deeply she's in it. So it's kind of like a bit of like a nothing of a group for me, in my opinion, right now. Like I don't think this group is doing anything for Rachel in the long run. Um, Especially given the fact that like I just realized that it existed and it's been made for days. Um, oh, I guess this was made yes. So this is a week three group. So spoiler alert. Um, so yeah, all to say, especially for week two, and considering that this was made after, I was at a five last week, you were at a four. She's kind of in a similar spot as Isaiah and Adrian for me in terms of like people that aren't being talked about as being brought into these groups a ton. Her name is certainly not on the docket of like Target coming up soon. However, I think if the game continues down the trajectory of just like nipping off the bottom person, currently she's on a timeline to make it to right around the final week of the pre-jury or the first or second jurors, which is just kind of like a plateau right now. So I feel as though I have to move her score down to a four. I'm certainly not lower than that. She's in a better spot than Helene, but
Was I at the four?
you were at the four, yes. Um, so I'll be moving down to a four for Rachel.
You're sure of that?
Yeah, because I gave her a five, and then you started to be like, no, and I was like, no, don't do it. But now I'm like, no, I agree.
Oh, you're right. That's funny. I, I thought I was at the five, so I was going to stay at my five. So since I had that line of thinking, I think I'm just going to go up to a five for Rachel. I don't think she's any danger. anytime soon. I think she's making good individual connections with a lot of people right now. Um, so while she's not like in the best spot, like in terms of groups, I think she's deserving of a five. I think she's in a pretty good like average spot along with Adrian. Um, and we'll see.
Alrighty. Moving on to Ryan. Um, Ryan for me is probably still like him and Kellen are the players that I'm most excited for in this game because they're the people that I do see most actively thinking beyond the game that is sitting in front of them right now. I think a lot of people just kind of see the game for its face value, which is Emma goes this week, Trista goes next week, Helene goes the following, and then, throw in an Isaiah or probably Isaiah rounds out that group of five people that like go in the pre-jury. And that's kind of how they're thinking. Ryan and Kellen, I think, are some of the few people that are thinking beyond that, um, and are looking at the big players and how they can make those moves. Um, in addition, I think that Ryan's social game is better than Kellen's right now, in the sense that, he has Zoe coming to him more than Zoe's going to Kellen, which I find like really interesting. Um, he also has this great bond with Kayla and Jen, which has now resulted in that group with Adrian and Zoe as well, which mind you is like the only group that Bryce doesn't exist in, which I think like is a huge thing for him. And I kind of view him as like the power player of that group if he's able to like step up to the plate and control it. Um, which I think him and Zoe can because I don't see the other three really being that. Um, I was at a seven last week, and I definitely now do see a little more paranoia in his diary room. But with that said, he did also send in a diary room for me this week that was like, okay, you know what? This game is not that deep. I'm calm. I'm here to have fun, and it's going to be great. And I'm like, yes, Ryan, that is the attitude to
For what
have.
it's worth, I think he has calmed down a little bit. I think
Yeah.
you're right.
So I do view him as kind of like Bryce's opposite. I'm hoping like in the right now, him and Bryce are very locked into the same areas of the game. But if I had to write a narrative for the season, I want Ryan and Kellen to be like Bryce and Justin's Ender. Like that would be such a good story arc. And I don't think it will happen for a long
Yeah.
time, but I need it to be that because Bryce will certainly have no problem being their Ender if they don't get a jump on it first. So for right now, due to social connections, due to him calming down, I have no reason to lower my score. And I do think he's in a very solid position in the game. So I'm going to stay at my seven for Ryan.
And I'm going to go up to a seven. I think he had a great week last week of just like maybe not really pushing much, but continuing to further his connections and also um like talking in his diary room about what he thinks about the battle pass and the moves that are being made and all that stuff. So I'm gonna be at a seven as well. I think he has come to the conclusion that like if I get out, I get out, and therefore nothing matters. Which is good.
That's the conclusion that I need some people like Jen and Kayla to come to. I think Jen and Kayla are a little more like on the first time around, like they want to make it as far as they can. And I hear that. But ultimately, I don't know if the idea of make it as far as you can will win you the game. And I think that Ryan and Kellen are people that have come to the conclusion that like, what is the difference if I'm playing this game for 15 days versus 25? Like it's an extra week of my life. Like, okay. Um, so again, this is stuff that is coming down the line because I do think that Ryan is someone that is going to be on board for the idea of taking out Emma and then Trista and then Helene and whatnot. But I think once the game hits the break open point, that he'll be well situated and is planning for that already. So that's where I'm at.
All right, Tristan.
I adore Trista. Oh my God, I adore Trista. Um, Trista has become, I like we said it last week. and I am fully agreeing with it this week. She is the Lara for me, where I will just love Trista for the fact that, respectfully, she has not a clue as to what's going on. Um, she does understand the game more than Lara, so I will certainly give her credit there. But like my favorite thing is like her diaries come in. I'm going to win. The power of it loses. And this one for me, the kicker is I have to pick up my social game. I will not be the perpetual pawn move is the pawn. Um,
She
she
reminds she reminds me that, do you know that video of Tiffany from Big Brother where she's like, there's like two diary rooms of her back to back, and it's like her at the beginning of the season. She's like, I'm coming in. I can't wait. I am not planning on losing anything. And then it's like, I lost. It's like,
um
it's so funny.
it is very that. And I sadly don't see her trajectory in this game going much further. I was at a 3 last week, but I'm only going to stay at a 3 this week. I'm not going to go down to a 2, and it is for this one main reason. If Trista just sat here and was like, "Oh, I'm up on the block again, and that's annoying, but whatever," I would have gone down to a 2. Instead, what Trista did was, I'm up on the block again. Uh-oh, this is a problem. I don't want this to keep happening, so I need to pick it up. So she did actively go to a lot of people one-on-one and try to strengthen her bonds. And for that alone, I will stay at my 3. But unfortunately, I think it's a little too late right now. She is so far on the outs, and
Mm.
the way that she went about like trying to form these bonds was like, hey, like I'm in this game. How are you? I really trust you. Who would you put up if you won HOH? And people were like, I don't really know. I
Like
think
you.
everyone's answer is you, Trista. Like, so it's a little unfortunate. Um, but there is effort there, and I will reward effort by not lowering her score for someone that will probably inevitably going home in the next week or two. So it's going to be a 3 from me for Trista, but
It's gonna be a
I
three for me too, but I really like I can't explain to you, and I don't know why. I need Trista in the jury at least. Like I need her to stay here.
she's
I think
someone
it's
like I
I think
want
it's
her.
because like her story goes so far like beyond this season. Like the fact that we like really were she's connected to people from before and we were really trying to get her last time and she said no. She applied by herself. She was so excited. She's been on the like her story is so long, but I need it to like continue at least to the jury. So
I
we
need a
have her for the
jury
jury.
speech from Trista. Like that's what I need. I need Trista. I've just like I've oh the idea that she's gonna be in the final 2, that's gone. That's no longer my hopes. The I need her to be on the jury just so she could ask a question. Because I just like kind of a la like Caitlin Time asking a question where it's like, did she have a grasp on what was going on in the season? No. But is she gonna like ask something that like is really important to her? Like, yeah. And that's what I want.
I miss Caitlin too. And Caitlin Mullins.
If one thing about if your name is Kalen in the game, are you going to flop a little bit? Yeah. But are you going to be iconic and eventually get to the point where you understand the strategy? Hell yeah.
And then
Um,
come back for a second season and go to the final
Kalen
two
T and
with
Kalen
another
F.
person named Kaylin.
Here we go. Anyway, let's wrap this up here. Just
Yeah,
because I
Vince.
do have to go here within the next like 5 minutes. Vince is someone that I'm at such a crossroads with because on paper, he really isn't playing the worst. He has some fine-ish reads. I think the fact that Bryce didn't tell him about the battle pass is, or at least should have been a huge wake-up call. And it was a decent enough one for him to at least clock it. Um, However, I do still think that he's like riding with Bryce and Justin and like Kellen and Ryan. Like I get the overwhelming sense that he thinks he is set up far better than he actually is, which is tricky for him. And I think I felt it overwhelmingly more this week than I did in week 1, where kind of everyone is talking about like Vince. Mm. And I think that if I had to name the other 3 pre-jury boots, kind of what I was saying with Isaiah, of like I think Trista and Helene are likely going to be 2 of them. But I think that like if the game blows open, or even if it doesn't, Vince is someone that I think people want to see leave the game. And it doesn't matter that he's formed this group for himself. I think two of them are in it to appease him. I think Rachel is not connected otherwise. And I kind of view like this group kind of feels like a group to appease Vince. And that's not a good way to form a group. Um, because like he's certainly not dead in the water right now, I feel weird about lowering my score to a 3. And I don't think he's been playing poor enough to warrant it based off of week 2 alone. But I'm certainly not like last week. I was like, should I give him a 5? No, I'm going to give him a 4. I'm certainly nowhere near anywhere but a red score for Vince this week because he's just kind of in murky waters. But my gut tells me that I should stay at a 4, and I'm going to follow my gut. So I am going to stay at my 4, and I'm just curious to see where the trajectory of his game goes further. And again, this is capping my knowledge of Adam's eviction. So I'm going to stay at a 4.
Um, Looking at where I have other people, I think I'm gonna go down to a 3 for Vince. The reason being, I think he was a very real possibility for being a nominee this week. He almost was initially, and unless someone volunteered, he was going to be the replacement. And funny enough, like I do think there is a universe somewhere where he blew up at the fact that he was nominated. The battle pass wasn't used on him, and people are like, "Well, now we have this person who's volatile and upset, and Justin is now pushing for him to go." So I think there's a world where he could have gone home over Emma, which is insane. And he almost touched the block. I think he's going to see the block more in the future. So I'm going to be able to. Cool. And Zoe, let's wrap it up with her.
Zoe. She is someone that like I'm just gonna come out with it. I am gonna be at a 6 for Zoe again. However, that it's kind of like a counterbalance of different things. One, she is in the main power player group, and two, she is now involved in what I view as probably the other main group of the game, that being Ryan, Zoe, Kayla, Jen, Adrian. That I think in the long term could be quite good. And she is very active. So all of those things, in my opinion, are going for her in terms of like good, strong player that is doing things. On the flip side of that, I do think that she is a little bit like all over the place in terms of like doesn't think through her actions before she does them, whether that be jumping to be up on the block or sharing that she knows Kellen or just like talking to Ryan about like we're forming this group with Vince or like all these things. Definitely worries me moving forward. But for the time being, like with the status of the game as it is right now, I have no reason to not be a 6. I don't think she's got, no one's talking about like, oh, I'm worried about Zoe. I'm just worried about Zoe from me looking in and where I think her gameplay could lead her, not where I think it has led her so far. So I'm going based off of evidence, not based off of what I think might happen. And I've seen no evidence that people are turning against Zoe by any means. So it's going to be a 6 from me, but I would like to see her get it together a little more before I ever consider raising my score. So it's a 6.
Yeah, I agree on everything. I'm going to go for a 6 as well on Zoe. I think a little. It shows the kind of player she is to volunteer for the block for this scenario. Um, I do think she has a little bit of like I think getting it together I think is good, but like not in a bad way. Just like we're gonna have to. I think we're gonna have to see. But that's all for this week. Brian's on top. Emma's at a 1. That's all we've
Yeah.
got, I think.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see where the season goes. I do think that like there's a chance, no shade to the season, because it could certainly pick up in the jury phase, but kind of in a very season 7, like I'm getting
It is very season 17.
very 17 vibes of like, okay, I can predict how this whole pre-jury phase is going to go. And then we're going to enter the jury phase with these
And it's
locked
gonna be
groups.
I mean
And we could
17
get shots
blew.
fired, but we could also have Bryce and Justin parade their way to the end. So like we will see where it goes. And that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah. Okay. Bye.
Bye bye.